to be up there one day.
The Boston Celtics are the NBA World Champions.
It's that extra motivation.
And number 17, soon to be raised to the rafters.
Anything possible!
Been so close these last 2 years.
But it will end in disappointment. They'll fall short of their goal.
All of those experiences led to here.
Brown fires up the three. Bang!
The whole world is watching, so now's the time to show it.
Jaylen Brown with the flush. Anything's possible. Banner number 18 has been secured. The Celtics are NBA champions.
My partner in crime, Jayson Tatum, he was with me the whole way. We shared it together.
It's a surreal feeling. We did it. We did it!
Jayson Tatum, what a game, silencing the critics, 31 points, 11 assists, 8 rebounds, while Jaylen Brown scored 21 as Boston topped Dallas 106-88 in Game 5. The champion, Jayson Tatum, the Finals MVP, Jaylen Brown, are at the mic.
It could have gone to anybody. It could have gone to Jayson. Jayson, I can't talk enough about his selflessness. I can't talk enough about his attitude and his just how he approached not just this series or the finals, but just the playoffs in general. And we did it together as a team. And that was the most important thing.
These last 7 years have been a roller coaster, up and down. I had to listen to all the that people said about me. And tonight, it was worth it. Oh my God.
You just heard Jayson, 7 years. They finally reached the mountaintop. Couldn't be happier from both of them. Wendy, I'll start with you. So Jaylen Brown, Finals MVP. Do you feel like that was the right choice?
So I did not have a vote. There are 11 votes that determine this award. I did not have one. If I did have one, I would have voted for Jaylen, but it was close. And Stephen A., when we were waiting for that announcement, the only person on that stage who knew it was Adam Silver. He got to announce it. Nobody knew. There was genuine suspense. That doesn't happen most years. The voting was 7-4, by the way. 7 for Jaylen, 4 for Jayson.
Close.
Jayson Tatum did have 2 30-point games in this series, and he had a magnificent closeout game.
Yeah.
It won't go down in the annals because it wasn't a close game. It wasn't a great game.
Yeah.
But he had 31 points and 11 assists. A tremendous performance by him.
Only Celtic in history to do that.
Is that right?
That's right.
I can understand. If you're a Jayson Tatum fan, and there were some Tatum fans in the crowd last night who there was a boo or two when that happened. I can see why you were like, hey, how come my guy didn't get it? And certainly it was a crowning moment. But Jaylen Brown, from the start to the finish in this series, was brilliant. Not only his offense, but his defense. He was a little bit more efficient than Tatum was.
Yep.
He smothered Luka Doncic last night, smothered him. And to me, that was a factor in why I favored him at the end.
Yeah, I think the defense for Jaylen Brown was the factor for me. His ability to pick Luka up 94 feet from the basket, to apply pressure on Luka at all times, and to put pressure on Luka when Luka was defending. That's something that we didn't feel like the Timberwolves did at all. They didn't make Luka work defensively. Jaylen Brown made Luka work on both sides. He was so elite in transition. He was elite in the half court on both sides of the ball. When you talk about being a true two-way player and the impact you have on both sides, that's to me why he got MVP.
Well, you know what? Both of y'all are right, and I get you. Wendy's absolutely right. We were standing there, and nobody knew but Adam Silver, and it could have gone either way because you're thinking about how this goes. I just gave the number 30-10. No Celtic has ever done that in finals history. It's never happened. These are Boston Celtics we're talking about here with their storied history, and yet nobody has ever pulled that off. So you have to pay attention to that with Jayson Tatum. You also have to pay attention to the fact that he came on strong in Game 3 and ultimately Game 5 of this series. It really showed up and showed out and put his fingerprints on things. But the reason why I don't have a problem with Jaylen doing it at all is a couple of reasons. The things that you all mentioned is true, but tone setting matters. And remember, what he did to Luka last night, he was guarding Luka from the opening tap of Game 1 of this series. He set the tone. I'm taking the toughest defensive assignment. I guarded him during the regular season. This is the finals. Nothing's going to be any different. I know how pivotal I am to the success of this team offensively, but damn that, I'm going to accept and embrace this defensive assignment as well. And he did that. And so doing that while still being a model of consistency in Games 1 and 2. Porzingis was the star in the first half of Game 1. Drew Holiday was a star in Game 2. But the model of consistency for Games 1, 2, and 3 with Jaylen Brown. And because that consistency was there on both ends of the floor that put Dallas in that 3-0 hold. I think that ultimately usurps what we saw from Jayson Tatum in games 3 and 5 to secure MVP honors of this series.
Probably the most ideal outcome, if I could have engineered it,
Both MVPs.
would have been 5 votes for Jaylen, 5 votes for Jayson, and 1 vote for Drew Holiday. Because Drew Holiday was awesome in this series. I could make a case for him, not really above Jaylen or Jayson, but he was the #1 plus-minus player in this series. He had a bad game 4, but
they all did.
Yeah, and last night, by the way, this ended up not being a game, and this will not be a memorable game. Jayson and Jaylen came out cold. They were 1 of 9 shooting. There was tension in the building last night. I don't know if you felt that because you were on Countdown, but the crowd really had to be sort of goaded to get into it. It wasn't like a typical closeout game because I think they were nervous after game 4. It was Drew Holiday that came out and set the tone in that game and settled them down. And he just had 15 points. And my point is, I could have made a case for Drew Holiday to win Eastern Conference MVP. He was that good. And it would have been great if there had been the first split honor. The voters, I know I wasn't a part of that, but the voters were negotiating about themselves, like, what do you think we should do here? That doesn't normally happen.
It was a worthy negotiation because I was sitting there talking to Michael Wilbon, Malik, and Bob Myers and them, and Julius Randle to a lesser degree, and I was like, co-MVP is not something we can summarily dismiss. It is possible in this particular situation because they were both equally formidable when it really, really counted.
Absolutely.
No, I was going to say, Jaylen Brown, hearing him say, if Luka stays in, I'm staying in, or I'm going to pick up Luka the entire way on the court. Like, hearing those words from him and wanting that assignment over and over again was truly special, especially because he felt like he got snubbed from the regular season awards. He had a point to prove on both ends.
He did. I gave him my vote for the All-NBA team. I had him 3rd team. I had Jayson Tatum 1st team. I didn't think he deserved to be off the All-NBA team. He definitely deserved to have an attitude about that. But what I also loved about it, piggybacking off your point, is I love the fact that they were both mic'd, and they both
so did I.
And they both wanted to be
Yes,
mic'd
absolutely.
prior to. It's not something. Oh, let me jump on this after we up 30 or something. Not that you would do that with being mic'd, but I'm just saying they roll up in there together. We'll both be mic'd for this game. We gonna handle our business
After
tonight.
getting blasted.
I love that.
After
That's right.
getting blasted.
How about
said Mike us.
cutting a commercial? Jayson Tatum voiced it. Jayson Tatum voiced the commercial. Now, I'm sure it didn't happen too far in advance. I was talking to his agent about it, and he really wouldn't give up how far in advance it was. I do think it was recent. Jayson Tatum wanted his voice to be used in the commercial saying, keep not believing in me. I can't remember exactly how it was.
It was about 2 weeks.
Was it? Well, really? Well, that's breaking news to me.
I'm not giving you a specific date. I don't know the specific date.
All right.
Approximately about 2 weeks.
I want to dive
I'm sure
in
you know how I know.
on Jayson Tatum a little bit more because he alluded to it. 7 years hearing people talk. He heard a lot of criticism. There were times when we felt like he choked when the moment was the biggest. Obviously, this was not the case. Andraya, do you feel like he finally silenced all the critics?
Yes.
Yeah.
He has a championship. What was one of the critiques for Jayson Tatum? That he settles for shots, that you lose him, you can't find him when the game is on the line. He could have settled for shots in last night's game. He was 1 of 7 from 3. He could have kept settling for jump shots, and what did he do? He pursued the rim with reckless abandon. He was physical. He continued to get to that right hand and finish at the rim and put pressure on Dallas. He led the team. He facilitated. He did not go down at all. He fought. His leadership, and that was the biggest thing, right? He was never snubbed from regular season awards. The biggest question was, can he close in the finals? Can he lead his team in the finals? Can he make plays in the finals? And he did that.
For sure. And I also think he got criticism, but he also did, as you mentioned, he did have games where he did struggle. He did struggle in the 2022 finals.
Sometimes a little streaky. Yeah.
For sure. When you win, you can talk your talk. And he was starting it yesterday, and I say go through it all summer.
Yes.
Let it all out.
Yeah.
Say whatever you want.
Yeah.
This is your time to settle all scores. But he did have to learn. And that's one of the things I think that the Mavericks will take away from this. Someday it could be them who get to say, silence all critics. But part of the reason why they got to this point was because of those failures. And that's what made this really more organic and really more special.
Well, I would say this. I mean, listen, he deserves all the praise in the world. And, winners usually take that attitude. Like Steph Curry's like, what they going to say now? Jayson Tatum, like, what they going to say now? We get all of that. But that doesn't mean he doesn't need to be checked to some degree. And by that, I mean this. First of all, when you look at the criticism, how much criticism has Jayson Tatum really, really received? When he lost when he was younger, we understood. First you were young, then you ran into LeBron James. The real criticism arrived a couple of years ago when you lost to Golden State. It really wasn't any criticism before
And
then.
last year with
because
Miami.
You always, of course, but I said,
Yeah.
prior to that, preceded Miami. I'm just talking about the fact that for the most part, you've been in this league, what is it, around 7 years now? Well, the first 5, nobody was bothering Jayson Tatum. You knew that he was a star on the rise. You knew his day would come. And, as far as I'm concerned, that was a very good honeymoon period for him because he continued to grow and blossom, work on his game, get better. Everybody noticed, and we just said, he's next, he's next, he's next. And then what happened is you got derailed by what some believed to be an inferior Golden State team 2 years ago because of the greatness of Steph Curry come shining through. And even though you got hurt in the Game 7, it was Jaylen Brown who didn't step up and handle this business, and that's why he worked so hard and was so focused this past offseason to get himself right so they could win the championship last night. The fact of the matter is, what preceded that was a 3-0 hole to the Miami Heat that left the basketball world aghast. You looked at the Miami Heat and you said there is no way in hell they're supposed to be up 3-0 on this Boston Celtics team. So yes, you did come back, but that's when the criticism really, really, really hit. You lost in the finals to Steph Curry. Okay, that's not great.
They were ahead 2-1 at home.
And they were ahead 2-1 at home, and then Steph Curry exploded. And when Steph Curry explodes, that usually, demoralizes a lot of people. This is the greatest shooter that God has ever created. Okay, that's fine. You follow that up by being down 3-0 to Miami. No reason in hell that should have happened. And that's when the criticism really, really elevated until they came back, notched it at 3-3. And so he was feeling the residue from that to some degree. But he's clearly made amends for it. He's a champion. He's class personified, pristine image, winner, obviously got all the skills in the world. And you can't help but fantasize. And there's a guy by the name of, this. Listen, one of the nicest guys. His name is Brian Colangelo. He may never get an executive's position in this profession again because you got hosed in the swap in the number 1 and 3 pick. And even when you moved up to get number 1 and let Boston drop to number 3, you still took Markelle Fultz instead of Jayson Tatum. That is something that people are going to hold on to forever because coming out of Duke, the brother was 6'9". With a J and a handle. You don't pass on that for a Markelle Fultz. And that's what happened.